If you're somebody who is trying to be consistent on all of the platforms because you feel like that's what you should do to be making money and growing your business, then this episode is going to be for you. And I will say I see lots of people who are very consistent, but are showing up without a strategy, and they are not making money, and it's because of the missing strategy piece. So let's dive in. Welcome back to another episode of the Cozypreneur podcast. If this is your first time listening, Cozypreneur is all about helping you make money and work with the dreamiest of clients. So grab your beverage, get your cozy socks on, and let's dive in. If you missed the last episode, this is episode 2 in a 5-part episode where we talk about messaging and everything you need to know to craft a really strong message that's going to help you get more conversions. So the last episode was all about why messaging matters, and this episode is going to be about the myth of consistency. Let's talk about it. Okay, so you have probably heard this advice, right? Post every day, batch your content, schedule out a month of content at a time. And while I'll say batching content is very helpful, I do batch my content. I also see the other side of this, right? Because it really comes down to quality over quantity. And I think that with the surge of AI, with the surge of like the online space growing, there's more and more pressure to show up more, to do more, to be in all of the places at all of the same time. And the truth is, when you are a business owner, you have an actual job to do. You have to actually serve your clients, unless you're a content creator, which I know most of my listeners are not content creators. So it's just not realistic to be showing up on social media constantly, be sending emails constantly, podcasting, blogging, doing literally all of the things, and still delivering high quality in your business. What happens is we get so stuck, and I've fallen into this trap so many times. Like, we get so stuck on this idea of like, I have to show up, I have to be consistent. And like, there's this fear, right? Like, if I don't show up, I'm not going to make money, right? And there's a few things that are important to note. The brands that are showing up consistently and you see them posting multiple times on social media every single day, those people have teams. They either have teams or all they're doing is content and they're not doing anything else. And so, if you're wondering like, oh, how do those big names like have ads and social media posts and a podcast and a blog? Like, they have full teams behind them. Even I have at least one person supporting me with my podcast editing because I struggle with that. Like, I know I don't have time to do it. I don't want to do it. And so people who are putting out a lot of content, they have support. And it's interesting because I have actually been very back and forth on whether or not I want to continue on the meta apps of Threads and Instagram for a few different reasons. One, I'm not super enjoying it. Two, the spaces have changed a lot. And where I feel like I found my people on Instagram when I started, I think the environment has changed. It doesn't feel as inclusive and happy anymore. I don't know. It just makes me really angry now, kind of going through, and I'm just seeing all of these sleazy marketing tactics and people who are teaching things that are wrong. And it's really just making me so angry. And I'm like, that is not healthy. So at this point, when I'm recording this episode, I'm taking an intentional social media break. Not to say I'll never come back, but I've also built systems in my business where I'm not completely relying on social media. I have a thriving email list. I have, thank you so much for listening, very loyal podcast listeners. And so when I'm showing up, it is super, super intentional. And then if I feel like going on social media, that's fine. But my whole point with all of this is you can't be in all of the places at once, and it's better to be strategic and show up in a strategic way than try to check all of the boxes on the visibility checklist of trying to be in all of the places at once. And it kind of goes too beyond social media when you're thinking about it, because it's not just showing up, right? How much of it are you taking with you into your actual life? And I say this because I saw a post on Instagram the other day of somebody being like, hey, I want to tell more storytelling content. So I'm basically going to take my phone and record B-roll for every single thing that I do this weekend. And it's like, but then you're not enjoying your weekend. Like, you're not being present with your people, and whatever you're doing that weekend, you are just thinking about content and filming content and, showing up and being consistent. And so, like, I feel like that's not healthy too, because you're not actually separating yourself from work. And I think that separation is so important for the creativity muscle in your brain, and for like actually being able to write really, really good content that's going to resonate with people. And this is a side note, but if you're thinking like, I need to film myself getting my coffee every day because I want to do storytelling and I want to, build trust with my people. People do not care about you going to the gym or you getting coffee. They care that you can help them. And so storytelling doesn't mean that you are letting them into every single part of your life and telling them exactly what you do every day. Storytelling is not about you. It's about them and their story and how you're going to help them get from one place to another. So before you go out and try to B-roll your whole entire life, put the phone down. Just enjoy your time away from work. And then I'm not saying don't record any B-roll, don't create reels, but just be mindful of it. Creating content for your business shouldn't be the number one priority in your life. And so I think that's where the consistency trap really comes in, because you're feeling like it takes over, right? You feel like, oh, I have to do this for next week. I have to do it. And then that's the thing too, is when you are in that mindset, it's hard to create good content because you're checking it off a list. You're just getting it done. That's when you plug it into AI and you're like, oh, whatever, I'll just post whatever AI gives me, right? It loses its authenticity, right? It loses the human factor because you're not in the right headspace for it, which is okay, right? Sometimes you just have to get content done. But if you're falling into this trap every single week, then it might be time to reconsider, okay, where can I step back on content? Where can I be more intentional? And really look at your systems, what's actually moving the needle. I actually had a call with a consultant last week, and, I was asking this question of do I need to show up on social media? And she was like, well, what are your numbers? And I'm like, I used to get a lot of clients from social media, but because the landscape has changed and because I've built all these other systems now, it's not actually moving the needle in a huge way in my business. And so I can confidently now take that step back because I know that the other parts of my marketing are holding up my business, even if I step away from social media. And so that's something else to think about is what's your long-term plan? Where do you want to be in 5 years? And then are the systems that you have now, do they support them? That's my spiel on consistency. But if you are somebody who is posting, every day, you're emailing every week, and you are still not getting the results you want, at that point, you do know it's not consistency. It is messaging, right? You're missing the mark. You're not creating those connections with your people. And it's really hey, if I look at your website right now, do I have a clear idea of what you do? If I look at your last email, do I have a clear idea of what you do? If I look at your social media, does it look like the social media of somebody else who does the same thing as you? Or do you actually have a unique voice, right? A unique perspective, a unique lens that is going to draw people to you. And, I mentioned, I believe in the last episode, right? I had somebody come to me who had a really great designed site, but they had their designer write the copy, and then they were getting, for a whole year, they got a ton of views on their website, which was great, but they weren't getting conversions. And so that's a sign that their messaging is off. Something needs to change. So how do you know you have a good message, right? And I'm going to next episode break down my framework for you. So if you are like, wait, help, tune in next week. I got you. But it's not about showing up every single day. It's not realistic, right? It's not about thinking about work every single day. It's not about filming B-roll. Take your vacation. You don't need a B-roll every single moment of your vacation. It's about being intentional, right? So when you have your overall message, your overall story, you can start to repurpose in a much more intentional way, right? So say you wrote this really great email, then I know that I can take this email and turn it into a Instagram post, or I can take this podcast episode and turn it into something. And the reason that's going to work is because it is part of the overarching story, right? Every little piece of content is part of this big puzzle. Then you're also like, you are not wasting time on content that isn't going to be moving the needle. I think that this strategy that was taught when I was first around that is kind of getting a little tired too is like, oh, like just tell any random story about your life and connect it back to people. And so you have people being like, I spilled my coffee this morning and all of those spills are why your systems and business are not working. And it's like, okay, sure, there's a way to do that. But it's like when it's like rushed or like ChatGPT, it just like, oh, you very clearly just like kind of feels like a bait and switch, right? It's like, oh, hey, here's this random story about something that I was doing this morning. And now you're selling me something for your business. Like, wait, what happened? How did we get here? And so that's really where like the intentionality comes back. If you know, like, this is my story and this is how it connects, then it becomes a lot easier. And the other thing too is like, your posts build on each other, right? You know, somebody listens to your podcast and then somebody reads an email and then somebody sees you on social media, and all of those posts have the same idea, but maybe they talk about them in a slightly different way. And so if there's somebody in your audience who is actually getting all three of those, then they're getting more depth, right? They're getting more understanding. And that's what's really going to build the trust for them. And it's also what's going to make it doable for you, right? Because if all of those are connected, it's going to be easy to just tweak something and turn it into something else instead of like really trying to like every single time be like, oh, what am I talking about, right? Like, no, you're going to have something that you can just pull from every single time. And, you know, over time, that message may change, right? Because you're getting data about what's working, you're getting data about what's not working. But ultimately, like, you're not starting from scratch every single time. And so that is what we're going to be talking about next week, is the actual framework that I teach my clients. It actually just got like a little bit of a revamp, so I'm excited. There's some good changes coming up in Copy Classroom. So if you are tired of forcing content, you're tired of showing up just to show up, and you want to be more intentional, that's exactly what we do inside Copy Classroom. That's exactly what's going to be happening with a new round of Brand Project that's going to be releasing soon. And it's really where you have the space to practice and implement your message in a way that feels good for you, in a way that is sustainable and makes sense and doesn't require you to be thinking about content every single minute of every single day, even when you are not working. So with that, thank you so much for listening, and I will talk to you next week. That's a wrap on today's episode. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to rate and leave a review on your preferred listening platform. If you haven't, make sure you subscribe for weekly episodes about how to make money and work with the dreamiest of clients without having to get dressed in the morning. Make sure to check out the show notes down below, and I'll see you in the next episode.